Hi and welcome along to AFTV. I am joined today by Adam from Get French Football News. Now, I thought we'd whet the appetite because we are about to embark on the transfer season. You're already starting to see players getting linked with Arsenal, although I don't think they'll do much or if any business until after the Europa League final.
Yeah.
But transfer season's coming, transfer daily's coming back. And I remember we had Adam on last season. And he was giving us some good tips then. You told us about Unai Emery, gave us a really good rundown on him. You was telling us about other players in France to look out for, players that you think Arsenal should maybe go for. You mentioned Issa Diop last year, who West Ham went and got, and he's looked a very, very good defender. Yeah. So I thought what we do, we bring you back in again on a bit of a scouting mission, have a look at some of the players over there in France that could be available, could suit Arsenal, and you could give us a rundown on what you think. Do you think they suit Arsenal? Also, you could tell us about some players who maybe Arsenal should be taking a look at. The new Guendouzi that could be out there because he came from nowhere, didn't he?
He did a little bit, yeah. I think Guendouzi is a really interesting case because he was a great player in France. He came through at Lorient when they were in trouble and they're getting relegated. Bernard Cassoni kind of chucked him in from the youth system. 17, I think, at the time. And he looked brilliant. With this sort of David Luiz kind of Soto Bob kind of hairstyle. He was playing defence midfield and he's brilliant on the ball as Arsenal fans know. And then he sort of fell out with the manager and dropped out of the team. And then when they got relegated, the same kind of thing happened. He looked great in the team and then fell out with a new manager and he was sort of in and out of the side. And the fact that Arsenal signed him was actually a little bit surprising. Talent, yes, but had some attitude issues, which I think he's sort of managed to overcome this season. He's done really well, hasn't he?
Well, he's playing around some bigger players, so maybe that sort of brought the ego down a bit. But he's had a fantastic season for Arsenal and has figured a lot as well. I mean, when we first bought him, I thought that maybe he might be one of these guys possibly go out on loan, bit part, but he's actually been one of the main players in the squad. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of credit that has to go to Emery there. He's really improved him, I think. Because even from those days at Lorient, obviously it's a very different standard and a very different situation, but even from the start of the season, he's really come on quite a lot, hasn't he, Arsenal? So I think that credit has to go to Emery there, I think.
So anyway, listen, let's get into the nitty gritty, right? I want to ask you about certain players and you can tell me what they've been like in France and whether you think they would suit English football or suit Arsenal in particular. Now, the first person I'm going to ask you about is that he hasn't played a lot this season. On the attitude thing, he seems to be another player who's got a lot of attitude. But it's Adrien Rabiot. Now, I look at Rabiot, I remember seeing him pre-season when we played PSG. And he played in that game, and I thought, this guy's a baller. He looked excellent in that game. Big, rangy, really good on the ball. I was like, he's perfectly suited to Arsenal. What do you think? Adrien Rabiot's been linked, I think, with Barcelona.
Yeah.
Would he be a good fit for Arsenal? Could he be, potentially replace, say, a Granit Xhaka or somebody like that?
Potentially, for sure. I think he would be an upgrade on Granit Xhaka, and perhaps even Lucas Torreira as well. There are a number of issues with Rabiot, as you mentioned, that sort of attitude issue. He was sort of stalling on a contract extension, and the hierarchy at the club kind of got frustrated and sort of banished him from the first team, as they did with Hatem Ben Arfa last season for different reasons, but doing it in a similar sort of situation. I think there are, in terms of on the field, I think they're a little bit he's a little bit unsure about what his best position is. And the main issue with Rabiot moving to Arsenal would be Unai Emery, because the two don't, as I understand it, the two don't really get on. And Emery moved him around the team. He wanted to play in a certain position midfield, and he put him in different positions. But you're absolutely right. He's got the sort of the raw kind of credentials, the talent. He's tall and rangy and great on the ball and really mobile. He's great
defensive midfielder. Or could he potentially replace Ramsey? Because not really a goal scorer, is he?
No, he's not really a goal scorer. But I think maybe he sees himself as a little bit more of an attacking midfielder, not necessarily as a number 10, but one of if you play with a 3, maybe one that pushes forward a little bit more. I actually prefer him as a holding midfielder. I think he's perhaps best there. And in the Champions League, so maybe last season, he played some really good against the PSG there. But I think the thing is that he is quite versatile and he could play in any of those positions. But the thing with PSG is that the way the club works, that they're so dominant. With these young players that come through at PSG, there's often sort of a sense of entitlement that comes with it, and Rabiot is sort of the epicenter of that. And that's a very difficult thing to sort of overcome.
You mentioned that with France as well, the French national team he's fallen out with as well.
Exactly, I think you're seeing that sense of entitlement there, because he sort of assumed he deserved a place in the squad at the World Cup when he really didn't. He hadn't had an amazing season. Soufiane Nzonzi at that time was in form. He'd only had 6 caps. It was that kind of thing, I deserve to be in the team, and he kind of didn't. So I think there was some issues to overcome, but he could definitely do it. He could definitely be a really important player for Arsenal, but whether it fits is another question.
Nkunku, he was linked with Arsenal. Have I said it right? Nkunku.
Yeah.
Sorry, he was he was linked with Arsenal. A lot of people were saying that he was going to come in January. Didn't quite happen. Again, I remember seeing him as well pre-season. I was impressed with him as well. For you, Arsenal player?
I would say perhaps, but I wouldn't say a starter. I like him. He's versatile. He can play. For PSG this season, he's played pretty much every position apart from centre back and holding midfield or in goal. He's he's played up front. He's played on the wing. He's played attacking and central midfield. Even played at full back and wing back once. So he's got talent, but I don't know whether he's got the ability to impose himself on a game. Yeah. I don't know if he's the type of player that would take the game by the scruff of the neck and lead or really affect the game. But he's got technical ability. Like I said, he's versatile, and he's his goal scorer as well. But I don't know whether he's at the required levels to be a starter for Arsenal just yet. I mean, he's a young lad. He's got a long way to go, so he could develop into that. But I don't see a mentality perhaps that other players have in that position.
Okay, the one they're all talking about is Nicolas Pepe.
Yes,
he's had a fantastic season for Lille. He's been linked with practically every club around Europe. Linked with Arsenal. Would he be a perfect fit?
He would. I think he'd be a perfect fit pretty much anywhere. I think he's that kind of player. But he's been devastating at times this season, and I think that the team he plays in does suit his style. They're quite counter-attacking. They really capitalise on their pace, and he's got a lot of pace, got a lot of skill, and scored a lot of goals this season, a lot of assists too. And he's really sort of kicked on. He was at Angers and perhaps didn't really stand out. It was good, but a young player. And when Lille signed him, he was playing up front as a striker. Now he's sort of moved wide a little bit, but yeah, he's absolutely devastating when he's on form, and he definitely would be fantastic.
Not a one-season wonder. You think he's definitely one that's going to get better and better? I
think that's something that you've seen over the course of his career, over when he's been in France. Like I said, with Angers first, and then with Lille last season, he's improved every season, and this is obviously the culmination of that so far. And I can only see him getting better from here on, to be honest.
Okay, Nabil Fekir. Liverpool tried to get him. Yeah. That was a weird transfer. It didn't happen in the end. But he's that creative player. There's been fans suggesting get Nabil Fekir replace Ozil. What's he been like this season?
I think replacing Ozil is something that he would do very well. I think he's probably even an upgrade on Ozil at the moment. A lot more mobile, a lot more sort of gumption, if you like, a little bit more sort of aggressive in his play. Perhaps a little more versatile as well. And because I see that Ozil's going to be playing at home, not really playing away games. And he's been playing in and out of the side. And I think Fekir is someone that's a little more reliable. The Liverpool transfer is interesting. It got to the point where he even picked a squad number. He was going, and there were issues over his knee. He had a long-term knee issue, picked up on international duty, and missed a long period of I think the season before last now. And the medical basically didn't work out, and it fell through. And this season's been okay for him. Like, I don't think he's kicked on at all or improved. He's sort of plateaued a little bit. Lyon have been a bit of a mess over the course of the season, and he hasn't necessarily sort of stood out. But I think he's undoubtedly a talented player and would suit Arsenal brilliantly. He's a very, very sort of Arsenal type of forward. So.
Now, one of the things that we definitely need is a defender.
Yes.
A centre back. We need a centre back. With Arsenal, we're not into the big spending, but you can get very good centre backs if you're creative with it. Now, as we spoke about Issa Diop at the start of the show, how good he's been for West Ham. Any other gems out there that you'd say are in French football that would be perfectly suited to Arsenal, because it's a real problem area for us?
Yeah. I think it's been a long time there, hasn't it? Been a problem area. I think there's an interesting situation with centre-backs in Ligue this season, because there aren't too many sort of coming through, but there are one or two interesting ones. I think one left field one, perhaps Jason Denayer has done really well for Lyon this season. Obviously at Celtic and Manchester City.
Yeah, he was at Celtic,
He did done really well.
Yeah.
Whether he's ready to move on yet is another question, but I think he might be an upgrade on Mustafi, for example. And the one that
I don't know if that's too hard at the moment. Although Mustafi has played all right in recent games, but all right.
Yeah,
Denayer, I remember him at Celtic, though, man.
Yeah.
Boy.
He's really kicked on.
He's really improved.
Yeah. He's been. I think the thing that really stands out about him is that he was good in the Champions League.
Yeah.
You can say a lot about players in Ligue and playing really well, and obviously it's a breeding ground for young talent, and that's been proven previously. But teams like Lyon and Marseille and Monaco, when they get into the Champions League, those players that are sort of standing out need to perform there. And he was great against Manchester City, for example, in the Champions League. So he's one. But I think that the one, so this season's Diop, if you like, is Bordeaux centre-back Jules Koundé.
Yeah.
He's 20 years old.
I'm sure been linked with him as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because he's perfectly suited Arsenal. He reads the game brilliantly, very, very calm and collected, passes fantastically well. Been a little up and down occasionally this season, but he's kind of assumed responsibility. I think he's a leader in that defence in Bordeaux, and they've had a poor season, but he's continued to stand out all the way through, despite like change of manager. They've changed the managers. There are 3 managers this season, and so I really look at him. He's been absolutely brilliant.
We need wingers. That's another position that Arsenal, I think we could do with a really quick winger. I mean, I look on it and say I'd love to see Arsenal playing like a front three of possibly, say, a Aubameyang, Lacazette down the middle, and then another really quick winger. I always say someone like a Zaha, but obviously that's a lot of money for someone like Zaha. But I was looking at when we played Rennes, the player that really impressed me, particularly when we played over in Rennes, was that Ismaïla Sarr.
Yeah.
Lightning quick, tricky, looked a real baller. Now, wanted to get your opinion on him. Obviously, I've just seen him in a couple of one-off games and he looks exciting, but you see these players week in, week out.
Sure.
What would he be a good fit for Arsenal?
I think he would. I think he'd be a good fit in a lot of teams, to be honest, because he's so skillful and so direct and so pacey. You could use him to do a lot of things. He's played on the wing. He's also played up front at times this season, and he's much like Pepe has improved every year. He was at Metz, and they signed him from their Senegalese feeder club. And after 1 year, he was off to Rennes, and he's been there a couple of years. And one thing that perhaps didn't stand out in the tie with Arsenal was that he can score goals. He scores a lot of goals, and spectacular goals as well. He scores lots of different types of goals. So he's a really, really interesting and really versatile player in terms of his sort of end product, if you like. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Ismaïla Sarr, and he's another player like Pepe that on his day is absolutely devastating. And he's sort of, there's an issue with consistency with that sort of player sometimes, but that's, as he's improved over those sort of 2 or 3 seasons in France, he's definitely gained more and more consistency, and this year he's been really good, crucial to Rennes. They won the Coupe de France, of course.
Yeah, they beat PSG in the final, didn't they?
Brilliant. Ben Arfa got his revenge. It was great.
Yeah, I was saying to some fans, right, when we lost to Rennes, I was saying, listen, they're a good team, man. They had a great atmosphere at that ground as well. I mean, it was a good day, that was.
Yeah.
Give me some other players that you think, that you've looked at and you said, you know what, why don't Arsenal go and have a look at this guy? Some of the gems out there.
There were 1 or 2. I think France is really good for sort of hidden gems. And the one that's really stood out this season is a little bit left field. So the team called Nîmes got promoted this season, and they're currently 8th in Ligue, and they've had an absolutely brilliant year. And you look through their team, and it looks like a Ligue 2 team. They had strikers that scored a lot of goals in Ligue 2 last year and struggled this year. The defence is a little bit all over the place. They've got a goalkeeper who's good but can be a little bit flappy. But they've done fantastically well, and that's down to one player. And if I'm talking about player of the season in Ligue 1, it's Pepe or him. It's called Teji Savernier. He's a holding midfielder, potential midfielder. Every game he plays, he absolutely dominates the midfield. Passing is unbelievable. Just technically absolutely superb. And for me, he's been the best player in France this season. And I think,
what's his name?
He's called Teji Savernier. He's a midfielder.
Teji Savernier.
He's a little bit old. He's 27, so he's not like the younger sort of the breakout season. But he's been the best player in the league, and given how he's played against bigger teams in France, brilliant against PSG, brilliant against Marseille in particular, I could see him slotting into a much bigger club. Okay. So he's one of those players that you can perhaps is a little bit left field, but his quality is so high that he could slot in anywhere. I think another one would be Youssef Attal, who's a Nice wing-back / full-back. He signed.
Another player we need.
No, indeed.
We need wing backs.
Yeah, I imagine there's a lot of scope to get some minutes.
Is he right or left?
He's on the right.
Yeah.
So he's played as sort of because Patrick Vieira is obviously in charge at Nice, and he's sort of been one of the success stories of his first year in charge. And really attacking, gets lots of assists. Scored a hat-trick the other week. He was playing a little bit further forward in that game, and he's also been one of the stand-up players in the league this season. So he's one to keep an eye on. Oh
well, so listen, there's some great prospects there over there in France. Let's hope that the Arsenal scouting department are getting out there and looking at some of these players. Because as we know at Arsenal, it's never like loads and loads of money to spend. But we know over the years, you can go to France, can't you? You can really pick up some real gems there.
Yeah, I think that's something that the league does really well. They've even rebranded themselves as a league of talent. That's kind of their tagline this season. So I think if you look over sort of the last 10 years of the Premier League sort of history, a lot of top half clubs have picked up players relatively cheaply from France, and they've gone on to a lot of success. So I think it's a place to keep your eye on.
All right, well, thanks very much, Adam.
No problem.
Don't forget, you can check out Adam on Get French Football News. The link is going to be in the description, and yeah, listen, he has got all the knowledge on all these French players, so you want to find out about him, check him out. And don't forget, Transfer Daily is coming back very soon, so look out for that.